Let's analyze the ins and outs of Razor Robertson's first squad as head coach. Firstly, Scott Barrett is your new All Blacks captain. Probably won't come as a surprise. Look, he's got years and years under Robertson as the skipper. That means everything. However, Razor has put in Jordie Barrett and Ardie Savea as vice captains. That's a nice little leadership triangle right there. But let's take a look at the squad right now, because there are a couple of omissions that are a little bit surprising. Couple of bolters for sure. And man, some big question marks at lock. We've only got 3 locks. And if Patrick Tuipulotu isn't doing too well, we might only have 2 fit locks. Yikes. So firstly, the props. You've got Ethan de Groot and Tyrel Lomax. That should come as no surprise. These two have been really on the rise for several years, anchoring the All Blacks scrum. They both had excellent World Cups when it came to the knockout rounds. You can pretty much lock those guys in as your starting props. Fletcher Newell, certainly, is a rock-solid replacement. Tamaiti Williams, once he overcame that initial hamstring strain that he picked up with the Crusaders early in Super Rugby, you knew that his name was going to be put in the team sheet because he's just so dynamic. And a man of his size, pushing, 140, 150 kilograms, moves like a loose forward, really key for the dynamic style of play that Razor is going to want, I think, from numbers 1 through to 15. So no surprises there. Ofa Tuangafasi offers a lot of experience. I don't necessarily see him starting that many games, but, I think he's the old head in the squad, which brings us to the newcomer, Pasilio Tosi. I never even heard his name come up as an option for being a bolter, but he is in the squad as one of the props. I think this is a little bit of a development initiative from the All Blacks, and it's a bold call from Razor Robertson. But did we really expect anything less from this man who has led the Crusaders to 7 different titles? I mean, this guy's prepared to take a gamble, and I think it's an educated gamble. So I like the look of the props. We move on to hooker. Asafo Aumua has just been borderline unstoppable for the Hurricanes. You knew that he had to go in there, particularly with Takiaho injured. God, I hope he's okay soon. That was disappointing, to see him limp off, really hurt the Chiefs. But Aumua is a little bit of a like-for-like replacement for Takiaho. That power game, the mobility around the field, but also the ball handling skills. Codie Taylor slotted straight back in for the Crusaders. Looked like he'd never missed a beat. Actually, he looks rejuvenated. He looks better for the little break that he had. So I think he will be your starting rake for the All Blacks, with Aumua coming off the bench. And then you've got George Bell coming in. And not too surprising. Again, that Canterbury connection is showing through. But this is a guy that Robertson knows a lot about. And he's obviously got a lot of faith in him. He has seen how this guy does in trainings. He's seen how this guy does in team meetings. He's seen a side of him that we don't get to see as spectators. So, man, I think he's done his due diligence, and he thinks that George Bell is ready for this opportunity. Now, locks, my God. I mean, Scott Barrett, your new captain, he hasn't even played in, months? He's had a very worrying back injury. I suspect that they are just working overtime in terms of the medical staff to get him firing on all cylinders for England. But you look at him with the back issues he's had. You look at Patrick Tuipulotu, who really, should have been out for like 7 weeks or something, and miraculously came right for the Super Rugby final. Your 2 senior locks in New Zealand have been in the injury ward. So, man, I guess, again, we just need to put all our faith in the All Blacks medical staff and think, all right, they believe these guys are ready to go. And pretty revealing that they are in good nick. You know that the All Blacks doctors would have done their due diligence. And the fact that you only pick 3 locks, Tupou Vaa'i being the 3rd, yeah, I mean, it's a little thin there. But we do have some line-out options in the loose forwards, which I'm going to get to in a second. Look, this is just an example of injuries decimating our stocks. Josh Lord's name would have been in there. There are some, young, talented locks coming through the Hurricanes, but ultimately, Razor's going for experience. England are formidable in the pack. They have a great line out. We've got a Tosi to worry about. All about experience, not necessarily the time to blood a newcomer in the locking department. But if we look at the loose forwards here, what I like is that you have Samipeni Finau in there, who not only is a physical blindside flanker in that Jerry Collins mode. But he is a viable line-out option. Now, listen, obviously the Chiefs were outplayed in the final by the Blues. No question there. 41-10 speaks for itself. But I did notice Finau winning a couple of important line-outs, and I just think he's going to be really important at 6. He would be starting at 6 for me for that aforementioned physicality, but also we need a tall, loose forward who gives us that option there. And, I like Finau. I like Finau as our starter. Think he's the closest thing we have at this point to a Jerome Kaino. He's not there yet, but I think that he is the closest we have in terms of potential. Ethan Blackadder, again, injury-wrecked career the last several years, but Robertson knows what he has with that guy. He won't let you down, and he seems to be able to just bounce back to full fitness very quickly, even when he's had a layoff. So he's just one of those Richie McCaw type players. He's able to slot back in after missing a lot of rugby and perform really well. Luke Jacobson, not surprising, another player who certainly didn't disgrace themselves in the Super Rugby final. In fact, he made some pretty telling tackles and, one or two critical turnovers as well in the final. So Jacobson certainly didn't dent his reputation. I'm not surprised he got selected. Dalton Papali'i, he knew he was going to be in there. Ardie Savea, World Player of the Year. Best All Black player the last couple of years. Obviously, he was going to be selected. The only question mark was, is he going to be the captain or not? And I did notice that Savea was playing some club rugby at an amateur level on the weekend. So he's obviously trying to get the lungs back working again. Boy, it's going to be tough going into face England, but I'm sure he's up for the challenge. And then I love this. Wallace Sititi, uncapped. It's funny. I was thinking watching the final, it was the battle of Sotutu versus Sititi. I guess Sititi, who was on the losing team, must have won that battle in the eyes of the All Black selectors. I'm shocked that Sotutu was not selected from the Blues. He had all of his offloading skills on display. He had all of his mobility, physicality on display this season, but he had a harder edge. And the engine room was really working for the Blues. Man, the pick and go was just deadly every time the Blues went into the red zone. And part of that was the tight five, your Ricky Riccatellis just carting the ball up relentlessly. Certainly Darry the lock doing a great job there. But Sotutu was always the go-to man. Tuck the ball under his wing and more often than not getting across the try line. So I'm actually pretty shocked. To me, that is the biggest snub of all. Some people might say it's a bias against Aucklanders. I'm not saying that. I just think it's interesting that you pick Blackadder over Sotutu because if you're going on form, you're not making that decision. Let's go to the halfbacks. Finlay Christie, really terrific in the final. You look at that long cutout ball, right, that he flung in the final to set up one of the Blues tries. Just incredible, good decision-making under pressure, rugged defense. I could see him starting. I really could. TJ Perenara did have a fantastic campaign for the Hurricanes, but perhaps faded just a little bit in the playoffs. But to me, Christie came back from injury and just stood up beautifully in the playoffs. And, I think that really counts for a lot. And then Cortez Ratama, congratulations, brother. You deserve it. He has played beautifully for the Chiefs. I guess it's an example of this is a door that opened once Cam Roigard went down with that knee injury this season. I think earlier in the season, it looked a little bit like Falau Fakatava might be the guy. Yeah, he's got a few rough edges to his game, but there's been a lot to like about the way he's mixed up his running game with his kicking game this year for the Highlanders. But you know what? Cortez Ratama just had a bit more polish. He went deeper into the competition. He had more of a chance to show his wares to the coach. And it's paid off. So I'm excited by that one. I think that's a really nice choice. Moving on to the 5'8", Damian McKenzie is clearly the man. He didn't shine in Auckland, but then again, who did? That was wearing a Chiefs jersey. He was behind a pack that was going backwards all day, didn't get to show his skills. You put him behind an All Black engine room that's firing on all cylinders. I think we do have the guy with the complete skill set to dominate at 10. Thank God for Bowden Barrett. Barrett also covers fullback. Means that we're only going to go with 2 out-and-out first fives because one of the fullbacks, Stephen Perifetta, can also cover 10. So in a funny way, you got a 10 covering 15, you got a 15 covering 10. Between the 5'8" and the outside backs, there are 3 players at least that can slot in at first 5. You could probably throw Jordie Barrett in there at a pinch too. So not too worried about number 10. But if you look at the midfielders, of course, the incumbents, Jordie Barrett, Rico Ioane are there. Thrilled to see Anton Leonard-Brown in there. I think he's just such a seasoned campaigner. I think he had a good campaign for the Chiefs. But Billy Proctor was undeniable. He's another uncapped player. Yeah, just an out-and-out center, strong, fast, elusive, good distribution. I like the pick. I like the pick. Moving on to the outside backs. A little bit disappointed here. Caleb Clark, no complaints. The hat-trick in the final speaks for itself. He's back to his very best. Sevu Reece was the best Crusader this year. In a losing team, he played like a superstar every single week. He has the ability to make something out of nothing almost every time he touches the ball. So I think you got to have a game breaker like him in there. He has that X factor, a bit like Mark Telea, who's also in there, of course, outstanding for the All Blacks in the Rugby World Cup last year. Stephen Perifeta, I understand the choice, particularly as I mentioned earlier, backing up the number 10s a little bit. But I got to say, Imoni Narawa, terrific winger, exciting winger, out-and-out finisher. I would have put Ruben Love in there. I really think he was just sensational for the Hurricanes. And look, I think that Love will be wearing a black jersey sooner rather than later. Narawa, of course, left the Rugby World Cup injured. Perhaps there was just a feeling that, okay, we've developed this guy, we've brought him on, let's get him back into the national mix. Love is still so young, he's going to have more opportunities. But yeah, to me, honestly, the biggest snubs of this squad, Love at fullback and Sotutu in the loose forward mix. Otherwise, I like the squad. I'm not surprised by the choice of captain. I think these guys have what it takes to beat England. But let me know your thoughts on the squad. Any shock omissions? Anyone that you think was just absolutely robbed? I would love to hear, so please leave a comment below. I'll be replying to all your comments. And I'll be back very soon to break down the upcoming All Blacks England games and the Springboks Ireland games. Man, it's a good time to be a rugby fan. It's almost midnight here in Portland, but it's exciting when the first squad of the year is named. I had to stay up for it. All right, guys, catch you soon. Bye for now. Whoosh.